Sarah, welcome. I am smiling to myself because after your introduction, my first question was going to be about you being in operations. So, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself to start off, and then we will go from there.
Absolutely. So, hello everyone. I am Sarah Chain, the head of product for Pershing X. Pershing X is a business unit inside of Pershing. Pershing is one of the largest clearing and custody firms in the market. And we established this business unit about 2 years ago now to really kind of work as a startup inside of the Bank of New York Mellon Pershing organization, with a focus for us to build out an advisory platform. My background, although I'm in product now, I think we'll get into a little more details, but I've had a lot of different roles within the organization. So, operations, relationship management. I kind of ran a business of ours, managed accounts for a few years. So quite a spectrum of responsibilities and roles that I've played within the organization, but really loving this product role and kind of more technical role that I'm in right now. So I'm excited to be here to share my experiences with this group. Yeah, it's great to be here.
So, this was my first question to you, right? You started in an operations position when you did.
Mhm.
So what did you actually at this point I think it's a self-explanatory question, but what did you
Mhm.
learn and gain from being in that position? Like how was do you look at it as a stepping stone to your career going forward? What can
Yeah,
you tell us
yeah.
about it?
Yeah, 100%. I started really my career in financial services, really kind of out of luck. I wasn't a career that I majored in school. So going into these operational roles really just helped me understand the business. I was an individual contributor. I worked in on many teams, really, just working through things like billing, account opening, reconciliation, trading, but really spent the first few years of my career understanding the business and the process around our business, and how we supported financial institutions, which I think was a huge stepping stone for me because I learned the details, right? I got into the weeds, and that really helped me be able to articulate and kind of see what my path, what direction I wanted to go from there, which, yeah, was actually absolutely critical for me coming into this industry, not really sure what it was, and kind of like wanting to just understand and learn what it meant to be working for a financial institution.
Yeah. So going back to what you said, right? You were a STEM gal. You studied environmental science. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
and was BNY your first job out of school then?
Yeah, first major job. I would say I had a
Okay.
few in between before I landed at BNY Mellon. One being I worked for a startup that was a registered investment advisor. That
Mm-hmm.
RIA ended up getting purchased by BNY Mellon, and that's really kind of how I landed into the organization itself. But yeah, it was. I've been here for a while, so I think that's a little bit rare now that you see people with 20 plus years of experience at the same firm. But to your original question, I think really coming into an organization and taking the time to learn, then I'll call it the nitty gritty, but kind of really being thoughtful and even if you're in your own current role right now, which may restrict you in your knowledge set, but being kind of that type of person that always wants to learn outside of your own role, that really helps you kind of create this base of knowledge in any career that you have and any job that you have, that can then help really direct you and kind of where you want to be.
No, that's great because, it does happen to a lot of us, right? That we graduate with one degree and then 15 years later, we probably not
Mhm.
doing very much related to that degree, but it's the process of how we get there, right? And
Yeah.
so when you were pivoting, so to say,
Mhm.
did you feel like, oh, maybe I should still be working in what I studied? Or once you got into BNY Mellon, you were like, oh, I found the place I want to be at.
Yeah. I think I am a curious person, so I think I always wanted to learn different aspects of the business. So, starting in operations, right? It's very process oriented. I quickly saw myself wanting to understand the client view of things. So, I kind of then moved to an account management role. So not only was I learning, the process and the nuances of a client and how they worked with our business, but then it was understanding, oh, this is how we make money from that client, right? This is how the work that we do um, articulates into, right, the projected revenue that we need to succeed as a firm, right? And so you start to connect the dots there. And I think then it just kind of, then I did become more curious and understanding, well, what products, what technology will drive, right, the most significant value to our clients, and will also drive a significant amount of revenue to the firm. And that's where, from those clients roles, I shifted into, well, what are we doing with product, right, and our platform, and what are those specific applications or needs that nobody's doing well out in the market. And that's kind of what landed me where I'm at now. If I were to look back, 20 years, I would have never thought I'd be in a technical role. And I think that's hard for people to envision when it's not like exactly what you went to school for and where you thought your position would be in life. But you know um I think technology is so important right now, right? It is what is going to drive efficiency, scale, um, and really great collaborations for advisors, investors, and firms. So, it's so important to think about how that connects to any role that you're in.
Right. So from what you're saying, what I'm hearing is that you were kind of curious as to the next step and where does this go?
Hmm.
And that's how you ended up like maneuvering through the whole, you know, the next thing, that the next adventure that you were going to do. So where you are at right now, and being very successful where you're at, where at any point did you say, okay, this is my career path, this is where I want to see myself in so many
Hmm.
years, and this is the next step that I'm going to take, this is the opportunity that I
Yeah.
am going to pursue? Or was it purely just, hey, how do you do this? Now that I've done this, how can I do this next thing? So did you have
Yeah.
a goal in mind and work
I
from there? Or were you
Yeah,
just,
I think yeah, I think a couple things kind of came into play. I think there does become a point for all of us, right? You kind of make that decision around the path of, do I want to be an individual contributor and continue to build my career, whether it's around that like excellent skill that I'm really good at and I just want to continue to grow down that path, or do I love managing? Like, do I see myself more kind of taking more of a management leadership role? Do I want to graduate my career that way? So I think that typically becomes a defining point for all of us
Mhm.
when we're in and on this journey of our careers, because that will take you down different paths, right? And for all of you, if you're like, having these conversations with your managers, super important, right? Because those should be things everybody's thinking about, right? Because it lines up where you see yourself in the next 3, 5, 10 years, and it also lines you up with just trying to build relationships internally and create that network that helps you kind of drive you towards those paths. So I would say that was my first defining point. I knew I loved managing teams. I loved kind of that leadership role. I really wanted to stretch myself in that regard. And then kind of it just kind of came together a little bit with, oh, she's a good manager. Let's go put her into this particular right business unit and let her almost kind of restructure, build up that team, and then I would kind of go into the next team and kind of keep doing that. So that's really how my career really grew in itself, is just seeing the qualification and what I could do on that front, and then giving me more opportunities to grow.
Okay.
And
So
a key part of that is building that network, which I think was the topic of our conversation, right? It's,
yes,
finding
yes.
those coaches, finding those managers that are listening to you, kind of see where you're really growing and what you're enjoying about your job, and then helping you kind of really manage the organization to take those next steps.
Let's talk about that, right? Finding the key people. You have several women leaders there, right? Your
Hmm.
president, Ainsley Simmons,
Yes.
several managing directors, your chief product officer, so many women up there, right? Which is very heartening. Which is one of the reasons why I was like, I need to have Sarah Jane on as a guest over here, right? So that is extremely heartening. But 20 years ago, when you were working for BNY
Mhm.
Mellon, you know, it wasn't necessarily the same,
Mm-mm.
right? 20 years ago, there was no great movement to empower women, to push them into leadership positions,
Yeah.
to consider them for technical roles, right?
Yeah.
So it was a different environment, and maybe BNY Mellon was different from some of the other, financial institutions I've worked with. But to be able to be where you are now, and to be able to pick the right people to network,
Hmm.
either you were fortunate or you did a really good job in finding the right people. So maybe you can guide us a little bit, if you had challenges. Love to hear about the challenges that you had as a woman going up in a career, as a woman who's a manager
Hmm.
even, right?
Hmm.
Because it was different
Yeah.
at that time. You look at the woman who's a manager, and then there's maybe another male, and when it comes time for a promotion, there's a very good likelihood that the male is going to be promoted over the woman. So if
Yeah.
there's anything over there that you can help us with, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definite. I mean, gosh, a lot has changed in the 20 plus years that I've been here, to your point, right? I think there were a lot of challenges for women in the past. And I'm not saying everything's perfect now, but certainly, it was harder to get that seat at the table. It was harder to be recognized, especially when you're in a meeting and you're the only female in that meeting. So absolutely, those challenges existed. I think it's just, for me specifically, it was still uh, not feeling like I was set back because of it. It was more of, well, how do I use my voice to be recognized? How do I stand up to show my qualifications, my leadership role? And, I think just having that persistence and using your voice is just something that I would continue to recommend, and for all of us out there, that whether you're male or female, and you feel that lack of confidence when you're in those situations, just remember, typically you are the expert on the topic. You're at the table for a reason. There are people in there that recognize your skill and your value, and pull that confidence out of you in those instances, and that will be, how you get recognized, and hopefully how you take those steps forward. I am, though, currently, I would say, in a tremendous, kind of position where I do have so many significant female leaders that are represented across BNY Mellon. So being able to lean on them, getting coaching feedback from them, getting advice, even in how I use my voice. I think that is still an area for me to improve on, even in the leadership role that I'm on, or that I'm in right now, is just continuing to show that confidence and not being set back by maybe being only one or two females in the room. And so it has been a wonderful transition. My boss Ainsley, she's just a very driven female. She's just amazing, and we're learning from her every day.
Well, that's great. That's great. So when you were going through, did you have like one mentor that you stuck with going
Yeah.
up, or did you have multiple mentors? And if we were
Yeah.
to go out and look for mentors, what should we be looking for? And what should
Yeah.
we be looking for even effective networking for that matter?
Sure. I had multiple mentors. I
Mhm,
never really put anything too formal in place.
mhm,
It was more of um, I would say it was more of a kind of a lot. I had a lot of great management across my years here at the organization. So having that set of leadership and management for me, a lot of times they were my mentors, they were my coaches. So I was really fortunate on that front to really lean on them, which also then helped me really kind of build out like what my next steps were within my career.
okay. Now that you are a leader, what do you
Hmm.
think the important qualities of a leader are to help out others the same way, right? But, regardless of gender, regardless of age, whatever it is, how would you see yourself, effectively helping bring people up?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it is, having these goal conversations, right? Taking the time and the space to, force that conversation, and it's not easy to do. And for some people, it might be more of a short term, where do I want to be in a year? But I would encourage everybody to think think along the lines of think more out, right? In 10 years, where do you see yourself? And put a target out there, put a goal that you can then back into 5 years, 3 years, and 1 year, the 1 year time frame to help you kind of get to that place. Because I don't think any of us probably, well, some of you may do this all the time, but I certainly have a hard time finding the space and the time to do that. But it is important. It is what will help us grow individually. It'll also help with that happy factor and really understanding where you want to be in your career.
You know how we all talk about the millennials, oh my gosh, what do they know?
Hmm.
We all work so hard and they want something for nothing. But I feel like we all have something to learn from the millennials, right? Because
Hmm. Hmm.
we feel that it's an awkward conversation that you're going to your management and you're saying, this is what I want. And it isn't, because you worked for it, and if you are doing well where you are doing, then it is perfectly okay to go talk to your management and say, this is what I've done, this is where I want to be. Because at the end of the day, I think it is something that we have to grow together, right? It is also good for the management to be able to see your goals and be able to help you rise to them. So I think that's a really important point.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about work-life balance. I know
Hmm.
you have little ones, you know, and you have also a very busy work life. Um, so tell us a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm in a very comfortable position right now where both my kids, I'm an empty nester. My younger one went off to college. So
Hmm.
it makes a big difference in my life. And, when I had the kids at home, I actually took time off. But that's not necessarily what everyone can do or wants to do. So please
Yeah.
give us a few
Yeah.
magical
Yeah.
points here.
I wish I had that magical button. I think the reality of is that it's hard, right? It's hard and we can't do it all. We're very good multitaskers. However, it's hard to fit it all in. I think what's helped me is just having a good set of family and friends that do pick up those times when I'm just stuck and I'm in New York or I'm in London or wherever I'm at, right? And you need that security blanket of support and help that you can rely on. But I think we also shouldn't beat ourselves up, if you're, you know, if it's hard because some of us really perfection is what you want, right? But the kids are going to be okay. They're going to get through things. They're very resilient. And I enjoy the fact that my kids see myself as a very hardworking mother, and I think that also resonates in being a good example for, hopefully for what they then are doing and thinking about in their futures as well. Um, but yeah, I would say number one, don't beat yourself up because you can't do it all. Make sure the most important things are the things that you're focused on. Because at the end of the day, that's what's important to your family and your kids and your job. And ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I think in my earlier years, that was a part of it. I could do it all. But I learned over the years that you need help. You need a support
That I
system.
Yes, that is so important. I think there are three important things you said over here. So I'm just going to
Mhm.
go through those points because I feel they're so important.
Yeah.
Number one, don't beat yourself up. We really cannot do it all. And so if
Yeah.
the kids guilt us, just understand the kids are very smart. They know by guilting us, they can get their stuff done. So it's okay. It's okay that, you didn't show up
Yeah.
for, soccer practice or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, so that is totally okay. You're not a bad mom because you didn't turn up. And then the other is ask for help. And that I
Yeah.
can't tell you how important that is. Because
Yeah.
like you said, even though we feel like we can do it all, it's okay to say, hey, listen, could you pick up my child on the way back today? Because I really am stuck in a meeting or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I actually want to take that a little bit further and say, let's say you have even finished the meeting and you are absolutely exhausted. It's okay for someone else to still pick up your child and you to
Yes.
have a
Yes.
few minutes just to wash your face. So, right?
100%. 100%. Yeah. 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 You just find, yeah, you try to operate with not finding the time for yourself, but yeah, your own happiness and health will make all the other things easier in life. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah,
Take that time.
yeah. So exactly. Take that time. So, um, any challenges that you have had in your career of so many years that you could talk about, just let's say you were sitting in a boardroom or in a, sorry, meeting room, or um, you had to leave
Mhm.
early someday because
Mhm.
a child was sick or something like that, where
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
hear in the tone of the voice of other people that
Yeah.
they're like, oh, you're leaving early, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Any unconscious biases, because a lot of
Yeah.
times people don't really mean it, but they will say or do things which that it's not right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a couple things there. So definitely first guilt. It's like a guilt filled feeling, right? Which we all do. Oh, I have to leave early get the flu shot in, or I have to leave a little early to, like you said, to hit a sports event or school event. And you have this like, oh my gosh, like they're going to think that I'm not working hard enough, or, what am I leaving behind at work to go to fit that in. So 100%. I feel like I didn't do a good job at it, to be honest, until almost the pandemic hit. And it was like, oh, I can fit some of this in and work late, or internet. You kind of realize that it's not like life will be okay. People will move on and adjust to things when it's important and it makes sense. So I feel like it took me a while to get over that, and accept the fact that, the world has changed and you can manage around your family and your life and the things that you need to get done. And I do think I'm doing a better job at that. I'll see, I'm having my own like self therapy session here. Like, we're doing better at that. But it is hard. It is hard to still, want to avoid the perception that you're not in the office, or you're not present. Um, I think the second challenge that I've had in the past over the years is being spoken over. So, you're sharing your message, you're sharing your strategy, your story, your vision, and you feel like you're not heard. Yet when somebody else says it, everybody in the crowd is like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So, those are been challenges in the past that, with some really good coaching, I've worked around on how do you deliver that powerful message that's clear and concise, and you know what I mean, gets the point across. Um, and if you're not heard the first time, say it again. And if you're not heard the second time, say it 3 times. And then that's kind of a trick that gets you to a point where people do hear it from you, and your message is resonating. So I think those would probably be the two that you know that I would give as an examples.
Oh, I like that. So what you're saying is like, if they're not listening to you, you can't say, hey, stop it, I'm talking.
You can say that too.
Say that too? Okay.
It might not work in every setting, but you can try that.
No one's going to say anything until I'm done. Okay, I guess I shall not be coaching anybody on these things, but but as you have climbed the ranks, and we touched upon this a little bit earlier, and I know that there are people who want to ask you a few questions. So there's just a couple more things that I want to ask you about. So as you have climbed the ranks, is there something that you strive to have an impact on?
Hmm. My people, my team. So my biggest successes have for me personally is just seeing any individual on my team grow, get promoted, get to a point where even if it's just financially, they're at a wonderful state in their lives, right? Like those are the things that, truly kind of hit me at success. That would be the number one thing. Just seeing my own team grow and be successful and deliver on things. Um, I think the second was just recent. So the success of us launching our platform in quite a short period of time, was pretty cool.
Hey,
Never
congratulations on that.
experienced
Thanks
anything
so
like
much.
that. So yeah, that was neat.
That is- Yeah, I guess that's kind of your startup mentality too, right? That
Hmm.
okay, we
Hmm.
got to get this done. Which actually brings me to this question. So, you guys are still into the wealth management part of things, right? At
Hmm.
Pershing.
That's right.
So, which was typically when you saw going through the ages, very, very male dominated, right?
Mm.
Pretty much on both sides, on the client side as well as on the side of the people who are helping the clients, right? Was there anything that you found to be a challenge because of the kind of people that you were trying to help?
Um, mean, I don't, I would say definitely not like, not significant challenges in kind of getting the job done or kind of coming together or being collaborative or anything like that. I think what I've learned over time, I don't know if this is going to answer your question though, but like just now being on like the product and the technology side and building out these experiences, understanding the differences of how like female minds work versus like males is just an interesting like study for me now, especially when it comes to like usability and what's important. And females are typically very task oriented, right? List oriented. What's the most important thing I need to do to get the day done? And if any of you were to, go look at any our website and kind of see some of the structure of the Wove platform, it's very task oriented. It is like, what are the alerts that I have for today? What are the things that I need to get done? How am I efficient? How do I scale? It's like resonating, in with all of our users really, and just kind of moving towards that type of persona. So I think as we build out products and platforms, it's interesting to see the dynamic of male use and female use, and some of the challenges we have there as far as how we're building that. But I think a lot has changed over the years, and I think we are much closer now to a very collaborative environment here at Pershing with kind of the male versus female uh, maybe challenges that have been in the past. I think it's, we're not seeing that for the most part. And I think that's really wonderful for our organization. And a lot of that is coming from the leadership, and, like we talked about before, when you have a significant amount of your board, of your executive leadership team, the ratio female male is equal, that I think that gives a very impactful example throughout the organization.
That's great. No, actually, the other thing is, and for me, every single time I do any of these fireside chats, there's so much to learn. And one of the things I learned at one of the fireside chats was I was talking to one of our guests, and she says, what are the most important things for us as women, right? What are
Yeah.
our priorities in life? And of course, you're like, oh, okay, family and career and this and that. And all of that, you forget your own personal financial well-being. And I think more and more women are waking up to it. And I think there's more even women clients for wealth management, for example, that would want it. So I think at
Yeah.
the end of the day, it really helps to have this different perspectives. So I am going to go ahead and see if we have any questions. Okay, there we go. For introverts or those who have social anxiety, what are some good tips for networking?
Um, Gosh, that's a great question. I think it's hard, right? That's a serious just situation when you have anxiety that builds up coming to having to have a conversation with someone that's maybe more senior with you, or having to get in front of a group of people and get through that presentation or get through that conversation. So it's hard, and I've been doing it for years, and I'll tell you, every time I have to get on stage, or anytime I'm up in front of a large group of my peers, the nerves set in, right? That anxiety sets in. So I think it's very natural that it happens to us. And for some, it's more extreme versus others. There are some techniques though that you can work on that help you. I've been in some wonderful like leadership classes and seminars, and it's things like deep breathing, taking deep breaths so that you kind of calm those nerves and that anxiety before you start and have that conversation. So there's things like that you can research and you can read up on, and that can help you. But then I also think it's a lot of it too is around preparation. If you know you have this big meeting coming up and there's a lot of anxiety and stress, prepare yourself. Prepare for yourself as far as what are what are the questions? What's the what that you're getting out of the meeting? How are you going to present your message around what you're trying to get out of? And, what are your recommendations around the resolution of that conversation? So if you're preparing yourself and you've got those words like in your head, right? Of when the nerves comes up and then anxiety gets so overwhelming, you take that deep breath, you think about what you've prepared for, and then you nail it. You're going to nail it. It's just getting yourself through that process, which takes time and it takes repetition. But, a couple things that you can just find that work for you will go a long way.
Okay. Um, Amit Chawla has a question for you.
Okay.
How do you keep your team motivated despite conflicts and challenges and
Mm,
roadblocks?
yeah. Um, Transparency and communication. So great question. And we are moving so fast right now. I mean, so there are always challenges every day. Change paths sometimes frequently. So a lot of open conversations, transparency, making sure that they know what's happening within the leadership team, what we're discussing, where our strategic priorities are, and that aligning that with their work is very powerful. And so that is a lot how I try to help them get through those daily challenges, and just always be an ear for them.
Yeah, I think that is kind of important because I can tell you, with my own experience, right? Sometimes you're like so close to success, right? You can kind of
Hmm.
taste it, and then something goes wrong.
Hmm.
Like suddenly there's an occurrence which is totally beyond, what you could
Hmm.
help, right? And
Hmm.
then it whatever you were hoping for doesn't happen, and you get so um sad. Really.
Yeah.
I remember, even my first job in this field that I'm doing, for the first 6 months, I always say anything that could go wrong, absolutely anything, it went wrong. Like one time that there was even someone who actually ended up being in an accident, and I'm like, really?
Mm,
I mean, it was crazy. So I think at that time, especially if you
mhm.
are, if these people are part of your team, I think what they really need to know, it's not you. It's really, we just have to
Keep
keep
moving
on keeping
forward.
on, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah. S- And one more question. What sort of significant, inspiring people have you interacted with through your career? Is there something very inspiring about them? What was significant to you about these people that you interacted with? I
Yeah,
guess
I
that's
think,
it.
I definitely have come across some amazing people in my life. I've had, and again, a lot of my mentorship, my coaching was just related to my direct managers. So I would say all of them each in their own way um, have been significant in my life. Some have, uh, really just showed me the example of being an excellent manager and putting those strategies and those skills into place. Some have really helped me think about how to grow my career and direct me along the way. So those have been hugely significant. Um, and then my recent manager, I think, Ainsley is just get really just such a growth potential, coming from an organization that, really living in a startup world, we've tried, but really haven't had as much success as we are now. Her background and her knowledge around what it takes to act and kind of move products forward this quickly as a startup that's been just a huge growth for me personally, just learning from her.
That's great. Well,
And my mom.
I
And my mom. Yeah, like when you significant person in my life.
thank you for saying that. You know what? Actually, you are so right. We don't give our moms the importance
Yeah,
that they deserve.
they deserve. Yeah, that's right.
They really do, it's one of those, where, but I only remember my mom saying when I was little, wait till you have kids of your own, then you will know,
Yeah,
you kind of
yes,
remember
very
those things, but you don't kind of
powerful
remember.
women that get it all done. Yeah, you can't go
So
wrong with
true.
that.
So
Mhm,
true, so true. My
mhm.
mom, and since you brought this up, I have to say this. My mom used to be a national level swimmer in India, and she was
Oh,
3 months pregnant with me when she won a medal at one of the nationals. So
see,
yeah, I
you can do
guess
it all.
yeah, yeah, you can.
Mm.
So that is great. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. Thank you for
Absolutely.
number one, persisting and making this happen today. So
Yes, thanks
I
for having
really,
me.
yes, and thank you for taking the time and sharing with us a lot of your knowledge and your journey. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.